you have the way out of your suffering, you can choose to move towards making a new thought process so you can start feeling differently. You can choose to think differently, and thankfully, your brain is an algorithm you do have control over. Welcome to the Love Your Brain podcast, the podcast designed for everyday people who are ready to hop off the negative thought hamster wheel and enjoy a less hostile environment in their own brains. Our brains are where we live our entire lives, and I'm on a mission to help people see that they have everything they need to make it a happier place to be. So join us for this episode of the Love Your Brain podcast. Let's get started. Alrighty, you guys, I'm trying to do a video along with this one this week, so bear with me if this gets a little weird. For those of you that are not on a video platform, it's really not going to make a difference. But if you are on a video platform, also know that I'm going to be working on my setup over time, so this may not be perfect. But welcome to this episode. Before we get started today, let's do a little check-in. Are you subscribed or following the podcast? If not, now is the time. That way you won't miss any episodes. And let me tell you, the next few months I've got some cool stuff coming up. Hopefully some really, really good quality content for you, so you don't want to miss out. And if you haven't already, please take a moment and leave a review. It really helps so that other people can see the podcast, learn a little bit about it, and know if it's worth their while. And we want to get this information out to more people because doesn't everybody want to love their brain a little bit more? I've so loved getting to interact with some of you that are listening to the podcast, whether that's just online or in person. And I just want to say thank you. Even if you haven't subscribed, even if you haven't left a review, thank you for listening. Thank you for spending time with me. I just so appreciate it. But this is all a good segue because we're talking about promoting the podcast, and what we're going to be talking about today is the word algorithm, right? So the algorithm is something that you hear about a lot. We're going to be basically talking about this word a little bit and how it relates to our brains. So if you're someone who is on social media, that you participate in something like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, pretty much any of those platforms, you hear people talking about the algorithm, right? And typically it's talked about in a negative way. But if you are someone that's not on social media, let me give you a little bit of background. Those platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they use an algorithm to see how you engage with the content that they're putting out, and it tells them what to give you more of, or maybe what to give you less of sometimes. And an example of that might be maybe you're scrolling through social media and you see a post about a dog that you really like, and you like that post. That basically tells the algorithm you want to see more of dogs. So they might give you a little bit more of seeing dogs on your platform. And if you're going through and you're liking like tons of posts about dogs, well then likely your social media feed is going to get flooded with posts about dogs. And kind of in the inverse, if you're scrolling through social media and you see a post about a dog and you don't engage with it at all and you just go right past it, it's probably not going to show you as many dog posts. So that's basically how the idea of the algorithm works as it relates to social media. Now, the quote unquote algorithm also gets a bad rap sometimes because each platform kind of calculates how they'll show you information differently based on how you engage with the platform, right? But a lot of people feel like it's not accurate, like they are engaging in a way that says they really want to see more about dogs, but they're showing them cats instead. And so there's this whole idea that there might be like a conspiracy or an agenda where these different platforms have their own idea of what you should be seeing. So they're really only showing you what they think you should see, not what you're asking to see. And, there's lots of thoughts about that. That is not my area of expertise. But I do want to talk about how the algorithm works because it's very similar to how our brains work. And that's what we're going to cover today. The good news, though, about the brain algorithm is you can control it a lot more probably than your social media platforms, right? Because we have control over how our brains operate. And that's the good news. So let's look at the brain. I like to always compare it to a machine. If you tell it what to do, eventually it can just repeat that function over and over again like a machine. But it needs to either be told something repeatedly or it needs to experience something significant enough that it makes a big imprint. Either way, though, once it learns that function and it starts repeating the function over and over again, you can try and stop it. But once it gets that momentum going and it's just trying to repeat that function, it's going to be kind of hard to stop it. And the reason the brain is doing this is for efficiency. Our brains are always trying to find the easiest route to get to what we want. And usually that's by doing things that it remembers how to do the function of. Your brain doesn't want you to have to work super hard. It doesn't want you to have to reinvent the wheel every single day. So it basically figures out what are the patterns that are happening and just repeats those because that's easy. It's energy efficient. And honestly, it's kind of like an algorithm for your brain, basically providing what you've already engaged with before. And it's going to use this as a reference point. And those experiences that you've had, those thoughts that you've had, it's going to reference those to determine how it wants you to think going forward. And the brain's just trying to save this energy, just trying to be efficient within this framework to determine how you should think and feel going forward. So much like social media doesn't want you to have to search every time you want to find a dog post. They already know about you. You like dog posts. So they're just going to give it to you. The brain is very similar. They're like, she's had this thought a lot. Let me go ahead and just give her this thought again because it seems like it works and it's efficient. I don't have to make her go search for a new thought, right? So how the brain functions is a lot like the algorithm, right? We experience this on social media. We tell it what we want to see, and it's going to keep pushing that information to us until we tell it to do something different. But it's funny because just as much as people get mad at the algorithm on social media, people get mad at how their brains do this as well, right? Like there's usually people who complain that they have this thought that comes in their brains that they don't like, but it keeps coming up no matter how hard they resist, and it just drives them nuts, right? They're like, stop showing me that, stop making me think that. But the brain is just trying to be efficient. It's finding the easiest route to go to. And that one typically is usually one that's well worn, which we're going to cover here in a minute. And usually that's because it's either a thought that you've had a lot, very frequently, or it's a thought that had a really big impact on your brain. And so it's really consuming a lot of your thought space. With our brains, we can change this algorithm. Now, when it comes to these thought processes, you probably have heard me compare this before, but I like to think as thought processes or neural pathways as trails that you would see in nature, because it can really be a helpful visual as to how the brain is operating. So if you think about a trail, you're looking at a big forest, there's lots and lots of trees, right? But then there's this path. It's a trail that is well worn. It's a trail where lots of footsteps have traveled. Trees don't go there anymore. All the grass has been pushed down, so it's easy for you to get there. We have a thought a lot. It's easy for our brains to see that trail right away as an easy path to go down, the easiest thought process to go down because it's familiar and it's easy to maneuver. There's not sticks and stumps up, right? Remember, our brains are wired for efficiency here. And just like the algorithm, it's going to stick with that until it thinks that you want something different. Whatever thoughts you seem to ruminate on and spend more time thinking about and engaging with, it's going to serve you up more of those thoughts. And the reason why is because it's already established that you engage with that thought. You think it, it goes, okay, that one works, I'll stick with it. And it actually starts to look around at your world and observe things with that thought process in mind. Again, it's just trying to use that same thought process and apply it to everything you're looking at. It's going to use that as almost like a lens to translate the meaning of what's happening to you, whether it's true or not, just like those pesky social media platforms. The algorithm could be serving you up something completely false. But if you're clicking on it and you're liking it and you're commenting and you're engaging with it, it's going to keep showing you that same information. And even if you look at someone else's algorithm, theirs could look completely different because they've engaged with content on social media differently. And it changes what pops up for them. Just like our brains, two people could have the same experiences and have two completely different thought processes because our brain's neural pathways, our brain's algorithms are calculating these thoughts based off of previous experiences and previous thoughts. So if we want to make a new thought, we're going to have to make way for a new trail, which that requires clearing the way, right? It's going down this one trail a bunch of times to make it easier to maneuver. And eventually it can become a well-worn trail as well. And our brains will go, oh, look, that is an easy route. I'm going for it. Have you ever tried, though, to change your algorithm on social media? I don't think a lot of people have, but some people have, and I've done this a few times. Just by picking different types of posts to like that you want to engage with, it really takes a while for the algorithm to like start seeing, oh wait, she doesn't want that, she wants this instead. Unless you get that magic button that says, do you want to see less of this? I don't know if you've ever had that pop up, but I'm always like, yes, I do. Please sign me up. Take that off. But if it doesn't show up, it does take just a lot of repetition of choosing to engage with different kinds of posts on social media than you were before. Very similar to our brains. But I do want to take a second to pause. And I just want to say that if this is triggering you at all, maybe you're currently in a place where you keep thinking thoughts you don't want to think or feeling a way you don't want to feel. Now remember, our thoughts create our feelings. So if you're in that spot and you're feeling things that you don't want to feel and you hear me saying these things, you might feel a little triggered. I don't want you to feel attacked right now. I don't want you to hear me coming at you and like pointing a finger saying, well, you're choosing that thing you don't want. You're choosing to feel bad. You're choosing the pain or frustration you're in. Because although honestly there is a little bit of truth to that, it can be really hard to hear. So what I want to do is I want to share with you a bit about a recent experience I had where I had that experience where I felt like someone was pointing the finger at me, but it ended up so good. So I have this good friend. She's from New Jersey. She has a really cool accent, so that always makes whatever she says very entertaining for me. And she's just one of those people who's very blunt. She tells it like it is, and honestly, I love that about her. I love people who shoot me straight, tell me how it is, they don't sugarcoat anything. And recently we were having a conversation, and I was sharing how sad I was about a certain situation that I've gone through and how I'm still mourning that situation. And to give you some context, she has listened to me drone on about this same issue for a very long time. This is not a new topic. And she said something in that moment that absolutely shook me. She said, why are you still choosing your own suffering? And oh my word, it hit me like a ton of bricks. She was so right. My brain was going down this trail of suffering, of sadness, because, well, there was trauma involved, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. But I just kept choosing that same path over and over again, hoping that over time that it would change. And although there is some truth to that, part of the reason for that is just because as time passes, we have enough experiences where very slowly we do have new thoughts created, but that's definitely not the quickest way to get out of suffering, let me tell you. So let's break this all down. You hear me say repetition is most important for creating new thoughts and thus new feelings, right? So thinking a thought enough times will make that more clearly defined thought process in your brain. But also the thing that we don't talk a lot about on this podcast, but I'm going to now, is trauma. Trauma has a huge impact on our brains. Think of trauma, if we go back to this analogy of a trail in a forest, right? Think of trauma as like a big, heavy piece of machinery that goes into the forest to clear the way. Basically, what's happening in that situation is that big, heavy machinery can clear that route in a minute, right? Super fast, it's all gone. The trees are knocked down. It's super easy, right? But then if you think of the other option to creating new thoughts and new thought processes as repetition, that happens basically you're creating that trail as like a human with tools trying to go out there and cut down trees and cut down grass, right? Like that's going to take a lot more effort and a lot more repetition than say a big piece of machinery. So I kind of want you to take those two different ways of creating thought processes, creating new neural pathways, as one being this repetitive creating new thoughts process, right? And that kind of wears down the path, those so that your brain goes, oop, there's an easy path, I'm going down it. And the other way is by trauma or some big impactful event that also can clear a path very quickly that makes that new neural pathway, that new trail really, really solidified. I mean, think about it. If you think about the trauma route, if you get in a car accident and you're rear-ended while you're sitting at a stop sign, every time you get in that situation going forward where you're sitting at a stop sign, you're having that thought, right? What if I get rear-ended again? And that's not a thought that you had before, but this one event created this repetitive thought that's now going to happen in your brain every time you're in that situation. And that's because that big heavy machinery really pushed through your brain and made this new neural pathway. And I give you these examples because I really want you to understand that it's not just about choosing your thoughts and practicing having those thoughts. Sometimes life just hits us so hard. And in that moment, we don't have control over the damage that's done to our brains. From that moment forward, our brains just operate differently. Our brain's algorithm is actually changed all in that one moment. It's just like clicking unsubscribe or I no longer want to see that content, right? It just takes it away. You don't see it anymore. And that is something that can happen when you have a big impact in your life, whether that's trauma or just a very impactful event. That neural pathway just had a huge piece of machinery force a path you did not choose. You don't have control over those events that happen in your life. You don't have control over those traumatic events. But you can work to combat it once it happens. You can pick up your hand tool and start making a new path of what you want. Slowly creating that new path that you do want in place, not the one that got forced on you. Does that take work? Yes, definitely, but it's possible. And in another podcast, I do want to share with you some other ways that you can have greater impact with certain therapeutic modalities that can really shorten that time of being able to create new neural pathways. But that is a pretty big topic, and we'll cover that on another day. But if I take you back to that moment with my friend where she told me straight, you are choosing your own suffering. That suffering was born out of a trauma that created that initial thought process. But instead of working on making a new thought process after that, I kept allowing my brain to just choose that path. I didn't pick a new one. I was not working on a new thought process, a new neural pathway. I wasn't working on solidifying it so I could feel differently. I just kept letting my brain take the easiest path. Honestly, it's kind of embarrassing to talk about. It's kind of embarrassing to admit because I know better. But sometimes we can't see those things ourselves. Sometimes we need someone to lovingly tell us that little blind spot that we're missing that's causing us harm. And I'm so glad she did that for me because now I'm able to put in the work to make that new path, that new thought process that makes me feel differently so that I'm not suffering. Because there are millions of different thoughts we can have about the same event. There are millions of things you can engage with on social media, right? We're all using the same platform, but having a completely different experience. And we also can decide what certain events in our life mean to us, what they mean about us. And none of this happens overnight, right? First, I had to start by figuring out how I wanted to feel and what thoughts I wanted to think about that thing. And it helped me to look at it at a different perspective, basically trying on different perspectives and figuring out which one felt good for me, what aligned with what I wanted to feel and what I wanted to think. And I tried on a few, picked out one, and then put in the work to really solidify that. And I've actually been thinking of sharing a small course with you all or a workbook on how I do this. I'm wondering if anyone would think that was helpful. Feel free, if you're on a platform like Spotify or YouTube, you can actually leave a comment or you can DM me on Instagram. It's the Love Your Brain podcast. And let me know if you think that would help you to have a reference manual or a little training guide on how I create new thoughts and new neural pathways. Because although it's easy I do think it can be daunting because sometimes it just takes having these very concrete steps and concrete tools to really just make it something that you're able to do easily and do well. So if you think that could be helpful, let me know. But my talk with my friend was a harsh awakening, honestly, but something I definitely needed to hear. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you need to hear it as well from a loving source. I want different for you. Less pain, less thoughts you don't want, and more of what you do want. Enjoyment in your own brain. And I'm here to lovingly tell you that you have the way out. You have the way out of your suffering. You can choose to move towards making a new thought process so you can start feeling differently. You can choose to think differently, and thankfully, your brain is an algorithm you do have control over. So let's get you to a better place with your thinking. I hope this week maybe you take some moments to try on some new perspectives about your situation. If there's something that you're struggling with, try on something that maybe at first seems weird, but maybe it ends up being something that creates a new thought for you that allows you to feel differently. I so appreciate this time that we've had here together today. You're probably going to hear a bunch more bumps and hiccups in here because I'm doing this video recording, but hopefully it will get better over time. We'll see you next week. I hope you found something helpful here today on the Love Your Brain podcast. Maybe a laugh or a feeling of validation, or maybe just a few moments to have company while you do your laundry. Whatever you take from it, I hope you enjoyed your time and leave feeling empowered to be more you every day. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the next episode, and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great one.